Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the Rangers Rabble Friday Night Podcast. I am Brian, the host tonight. As said on the afternoon Rabble, Martin is on Fridays off now in the future, so you won't see him on a Friday. He is give himself that day off, so we will be mucking in and helping out on Fridays. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Alex and Lewis. Alex, how are we?
Good, mate. Aye, good. Ready to talk about all things Rangers as we get, as the title says, even closer to being back. We've only got a couple of days going until we've even got Panathinaikos, so we are getting there, mate. We're good, but ready to talk all things Rangers with two lads tonight.
Absolutely, and of course, folks, if you didn't sort of realise that, yes, Alex has had a haircut and the beard is gone. He's looking absolutely dapper, so go easy on him. Go easy on him. Lewis, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. I'll certainly be putting my name down for the Fridays now for the foreseeable future, now that I know Martin's not going to be there. So that's a nice wee bit of information. And it looks like me and you have to be displaying the beard game now that Alex has let us down. You've let the team down.
Oh, terrible.
Let it go, mate.
Absolutely shocking, isn't it? Absolutely. But no, my internet is fixed, folks, so don't worry. There shouldn't be any issues with mine. It should be perfect. And Lyndon, wow. Shares a birthday with Martin. I'm sure Martin's delighted with that. Absolutely over the moon. You'll be made up with that, Lyndon. Don't you worry. And super chat in from Charles. Yes, Charles. Honestly. That's all I'm going to say. Gee whiz, Charles. Good to see everybody in. Alex, the obviously European squad was announced earlier. Me and Willie went over it a little bit. What did you make of it?
See, to be fair, I'm quite happy with the squad. I know we had a wee chat before we came on, but I'm quite happy with the squad. It's probably the best squad we're actually going to put together in terms of the players that we can name for it. Few surprises to players that are not there. Obviously, we can get into it as we talk about it. But I was very surprised. I know the guys were going to be in it, but for me, Cyril Dessers and Igaman, the fact that they've not played a minute of pre-season, they've not even been training, and I get that we're not going to rely on Danilo and Josh Gentos, I know that, but to see them named in it was a bit of a, right, fair enough, but it also shows that they're not going anywhere anytime soon, because you're not going to name them in the squad, and then they're going to get sold in the next couple of days, so it shows that they're obviously in the plans for at least the next, 3-4 weeks, because they're named in the both squads, unless a massive bid comes in and they disappear.
Yeah. Lewis, was there any nice surprises for you in that squad announcement?
To be honest, there wasn't really any surprises. It was as expected as it could be up until this point. I mean, we're all hoping that there's still some additions to be made, hopefully once we bypass this stage of the competition. So, it was more surprising some of the omissions. I think you're looking at Yilmaz. I think the writing's on the wall now for the wee man. I think that's telling. There must be something in the pipeline for him to depart the football club, because you've named Yefty and Robbie Fraser in there instead of the wee man. So I think that's probably quite telling for his future. And then the two centre backs that are pretty unwanted at Rangers, and Davies and Proper, have also not been named. So I think they'll also meet the same fate as Yilmaz, same with Matondo and young Ross McCausland as well. I think that's telling for all of these guys' futures, that it's probably not at Rangers. So hopefully we start to see some exits coming after that. And all fingers crossed, man.
Fingers crossed. Alex, it's a great point that Lewis makes. It was more. I must admit, I think I said in one of the chats when I was watching, I think it was Monday night or one of the afternoon Rabbles, it was going to be more telling who wasn't in the squad than who was, because I think that was I think the announcement, and obviously who wasn't in the squad, that would pretty much spell that they're not going to be at the club for much longer, wouldn't it?
It pretty much does that, exactly. It shows that they're not going to be here. With the two most important games so far of the campaign, before we even get underway with Panathinaikos, these are when you want your top players in, and the players that are going to be here for the foreseeable. So these 5 boys not being named in it kind of says that, well, there's the door, away you go. Obviously, Ridvan Yilmaz, we knew that he was probably going to be away when Max Aarons was given his number. You kind of know that that's going to spell the end for you when you're still at the club and your number's taken straight off you. So that's got to be a sore one to take. But for me, it just shows that these boys are away. They're not wanted. But if we can get at least a fee for some of them, even if it's a loan, because I know Ross McCausland looks like a few teams are wanting him on a loan rather than a permanent deal. So if we can get him at least out of the club for a bit, then it shows that we can start getting these new lads in and get them embedded, actually getting them game time. Because how many times have we seen new players come in and it's still the old guys that have been here for a while that get the starting places and they have to work their way in off the bench. So it's good to see that they're actually getting in and getting named in the squad. Because look at the names that are in there. You've obviously got Philo, you've got Cameron, you've got Dowell's in there, which is a bit of a shock. I didn't think Dowell would get it, but he's obviously wanted by Russell Martin, and he's obviously talking about naming him in the was it the senior group of leaders. So obviously shows that he sees something that none of the Rangers fans see in Kieran Dowell. So it'll be interesting to see what he can actually prove going forward. I will say he had a great campaign with Birmingham. See if he can replicate that form back up here. It's going to take a lot, though, for somebody like Kieran Dowell to sway the opinions of the Rangers fans because he was not good enough to turn that in the first place. So for me, somebody like Kieran Dowell has to show the qualities he's got, but he has to do it quickly.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, Lewis, the money that obviously some of the guys that are on the that haven't made the squad, the likes of Proper, the likes of Davies, okay, I think McCausland and others are on relatively sort of modest wages. But as I say, the guys the big ones that are out, I think that'll be an absolute bonus if we can get them off the wage bill, because I think then the manager can utilize that wages far, far better than what we're getting just now.
Some of these guys are like, for some of them were pre-contract signings. Like Davies was a pretty high-profile pickup coming for coming from Liverpool. So a lot of these guys are probably well north of £20,000 a week. Some of them even reaching close to 30 in Rabbi Matondo's case. So it's absolutely huge that we get some of these guys at the door and free up some funds to go and pick up some more players. It's just that I've seen it in the comments there, just to clarify. I believe all the players that have been omitted is Yilmaz, Inciala, Davies, Proper, Sterling and Matondo, who are both injured, and Ross McCausland, I believe, are all the omissions. So everybody else in our current squad, including B team players, have been selected for European football. Just to clarify for the guys in the comments.
Yes. Would McCausland categorise as B list?
I don't think so, because his age, I think is it under 21? I believe it might be to qualify. Don't quote me on that. I don't know that for a fact, but I think it might be under 21.
Yes, so he'll be too old for that category. Absolutely. Is this a surprise, Alex? That CGM said, Dowell seems to be in favour, which I think is a surprise. I think everybody's astonished that he's in favour. I think he was one of the ones top of the list to sort of lead, along with Davies and Proper and all those guys. I think that was surprised everybody, because I don't think anybody gave him much of a chance of staying on beyond the summer.
I don't think any of us did either. To be fair, not many Rangers fans would have gave Dowell any sort of chance of being able to stay. We all thought, if he had such a good campaign with Birmingham City, that he was going to go back permanently along with Ben Davies, and that would be a thanks for your service, but we'll see you later on and get a good fee. But it looks like it's only Ben Davies that's going back, and Kieran Dowell's going to be fighting for a place. My biggest issue is, where does he fit in that midfield? Because there's so many other players that we brought in that play in that position, that look better in that position. And I think if Kieran Dowell's getting a chance over some of them, you're going to be a bit worried. So he's obviously proven something in training that none of us are seeing, because you've obviously had this extended training camp with Russell Martin. So he's showing something that we're not seeing, and it'll be interesting to see how long he actually gets in the team if he's not performing. Because when you look at the way the Rangers fans react to certain players, Kieran Dowell was one that was highly booed for a lot of the games he played at Rangers, because one, he couldn't stay fit, and two, when he came on, he just looked like he was chasing shadows. So he's going to have to improve a hell of a lot in this Rangers team to show that he actually deserves a place to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And Lewis, I'll bring this one up for you. Smoke my draw. This squad tells me we are not bothering about Europe. Is that a fair shout?
No, I think that's severely unfair. I would like Smoke Madro to come in and tell me what else the manager could have done at this point. Like, it's just reality where the squad is right now. I actually think we've been surprisingly active in the transfer market. We were all pretty worried about the lack of business, and then it all kind of happened in a short space of time. And it seems to be the guys that are heavily publicised in the media aren't actually the guys that end up coming through the door. So we could be signing somebody tomorrow, and nobody would be none the wiser. So no, I think that's quite an unfair statement. I think this is probably the best of what we could provide at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, that absolutely. I believe Despicable Me, it's on Premier Sports. Would that be right, Alex?
Yeah, it's on Premier Sports. The programme starts at 7:15 on Premier Sports for the first leg. So I think they only came out today. They literally only announced it today that it'll be on the telly. So they've left it a bit late for that. So it's on Rangers TV and Premier Sports.
Absolutely. And Alex, 4 sleeps to go. Can't wait for Tuesday because of course we know the old watch-alongs are back.
Can't wait, mate. I honestly, I'm so buzzing for the watch-alongs to be back. I did one for the Bruges game, and I can't wait, honestly, just to get back on for the watch-alongs. It's going to be so good, especially a European tie as well. So it'll be good to see the Champions League banners everywhere and get back on for the watch-alongs. I can't wait for it. I wanted to bring a question to Perry. Are you surprised that Theo was in the team after we were told he was going for scans?
On you go. I'll let you go first, Lewis.
I'm not quite surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, this guy is probably the most exciting acquisition we've made so far. So he was somebody that I was praying we'd be able to get to see, and it might just be a case of putting him in the squad, maybe not ready for the first leg, but he might be ready for the second leg type of situation. So I'm surprised but pleasantly.
Yeah, I think everybody was fearing the worst, obviously, when that news came out that he was injured during the game. But I think with his his addition into the European squad, I think everybody's now thinking that it's not as bad as first feared, because there wouldn't be any point in putting him in if he wasn't going to feature in one of the 2 games. So we've got to kind of hope now and trust that it's not as bad as everybody kind of thought. So there's that angle as well. I think when everybody sees injury in Rangers, they automatically think it's a season ender or something really bad. But I'm kind of thinking now that because of he's in the squad now, I think he should be okay. Thankfully. Again, fingers crossed for that one. That's all I'm saying in the matter. I'm not saying any more. But Lewis, what position do you think Dowell will play? Because I've been hearing he's been playing right wing.
I mean, personally, that isn't where I would favour him. Certainly not this system, but I think what the manager's done with the acquisitions that we've made and the guys that are already in the squad, there's a lot of flexibility there. There's a lot of guys that can play in multiple positions. The likes of Diamandi, the likes of Asgard, the likes of Dowell. These guys can play out wide and can play in one of the 8 positions. So I think there will be a lot of interchange. We'll line up with a certain formation and a certain starting 11, but it won't be the same starting 11 come 5-10 minutes into the game, because I know when we done the tactical breakdown, when the manager first came in, one of the big things for Russell Martin is players that are able to be fluid in a system and only just specialists. So I think that's he might be playing right wing, but you might see him in the middle. It's one of the situations. And listen, he wouldn't have been my first choice out of the players that were slated to let go, Kieran Dowell, but he also wouldn't have been the last choice. So we just need to trust in the manager's talent ID.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. And, Alex, it's a difficult one for Dowell because I don't think, as we said earlier, that anybody gave him any chance of staying. But now he's featured in pretty much every sort of pre-season game. He's done, according to reports, reasonably well in those games. So it's kind of hard to see where this guy's going to fit in, isn't it?
Definitely is. The thing we have to remember as well, though, Brian, he's fitted in well in pre-season games.
Yes.
It's going to be completely different if he's in the starting lineup against Motherwell in the first league game of the campaign, if he's in the starting lineup against Panathinaikos in the first leg or second leg. See, when the games actually matter and it's not just a kick about to try and impress your manager, that's when it's going to be most important. And if Kieran Dowell's going to be a starter, you're going to feel disappointed for the other boys that are showing they've got a lot more. Do you know, if you're taking out Rothwell, who's going to be in the holding with Raskin and Diamande, you've also got Asgard to go in there as well. You've got Gassama. Where does Kieran Dowell actually fit? That's the biggest problem I'm seeing right now, because you're not going to he's not got the pace to play on the wings. So that automatically takes him out of that. He's not got, from what we've seen last season now, the season before when he was with us, he's not got the technical ability, and he actually looks like he panics to shoot when he has the ball. We've seen that against Bruges. He panicked a few times. So where does he actually fit in? I'm struggling to figure out where my cousin, I've seen that in comments, my cousin there, where Dowell fits in. I don't actually see him fitting in. So it's going to be, for me, he's going to have to play in the middle, but then he's going to be more of an impact sub rather than a starter, because we've got so many boys that were promising last season that need to get more games. And for me, Kieran Dowell can't take one of those positions.
Yeah, I must admit, our midfield is pretty stacked now. Obviously, with Lyle Cameron coming in, also Asgard in there, Raskin,
I mean, you look at it, you've
Diamande,
got Bayrami, Barron, Cameron, Cortez is in there as well. You've got Diamande, Dowell, Robbie Fraser, Gassama, Raskin, and Joe Rothwell. Now, for me, Kieran Dowell doesn't even start, and that's the biggest issue you've got. If what we're seeing from the manager, how much praise he's putting on him, how much he actually likes Kieran Dowell, you can see Kieran Dowell taking the place of a Nico Raskin, of a Gassama, of the Joe Rothwell, and that's not what we want, because we want to see the players that we've not seen yet in the competitive fixture actually showing they've got an impact. You don't want to write off somebody like Dowell because he had a good campaign, but the fact he tainted his view when he was at Rangers the season before, before he went to Birmingham, he tainted the view of the Rangers fans. He didn't show enough. So he's got a lot to prove to us before he proves that to Russell Martin.
Certainly has. And Lewis, this one I'll take to you. The only worry is we haven't had enough competitive games ready us for Champions League match. I kind of tend to agree with this. I mean, I know we've had closed doors games, right? It's minutes and legs and stuff, but I still would have liked to have seen us have a couple of games more where there's at least a crowd there. I think we've underprepared in that side of it, haven't we?
Most definitely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, one game in front of maybe 38,000 at Ibrox. You wouldn't have been anywhere near capacity, but it will be damn near full on Tuesday night. So I think that was a massive error in judgment there by Rangers, because boys, we know how difficult it is when you don't start well in a game at Ibrox. It's probably one of the hardest stadiums in the world as a home team to play, because as a fan base, we've just got absolutely zero patience. And it's a must-win game. Like, it's harder because you're playing at home, so the expectation is you need to perform and come away with a sizable result. And just with the fact that all the variables that are put into play with the new signings, the new manager, the new system, and not enough time together, and like you said, the fact that we've only played one game in front of a crowd at Ibrox before this, I think it is slightly worrying. But let's just hope that the quality in the team and what the manager's implemented up until this point is enough to see us through this round, because once we're through this round, we're at least guaranteed the level of competition that Rangers should be playing at a bare minimum. So we just need to try our best to get through this.
Absolutely. And I'll stick with you, Lewis, just quickly on this one, because you mentioned the tactics and that. I mean, Timothy's saying that he said at Birmingham it was nice to play in an attacking team. he's maybe taking digs at Clement's tactics, I presume. Is there a chance that Dowell could, thrive or do very well under Russell Martin?
No, there is. There definitely is a world where Kieran Dowell is a successful player at Rangers. He's got all the technical ability in the world. We all knew that before he came to Rangers. He had success at Norwich and he was highly, highly rated at Everton before that. So the technical ability and the talent was never really in doubt. And to be honest, I think he does get a slightly hard go at it from our fan base because he wasn't really given masses an opportunity. The worry more with him when he was at Rangers at the first goal was injury problems. That's always been the issue with Kieran Dowell. His talent was never really the question. I mean, you've seen it in small spots like the goal against Livingston. Like you don't come up with something like that if you're not a talented footballer, and tactically fits into the new manager system very, very well, which is maybe why in the early stages we're seeing him get so much football under Russell Martin. My worry comes from the fact that who he's going to take the opportunity away from. Like somebody like Lyle Cameron should be getting their minutes, no Kieran Dowell. Nico Raskin, no Kieran Dowell. Even Bayrami should be getting minutes before Kieran Dowell because he showed more than what Kieran Dowell is in the respective times at the football club. So the talent isn't the problem. The fact that he's going to take the opportunity away from other players would be my problem.
Absolutely. And just going on sort of the atmosphere, Alex, I expected a JD's saying I expected a rocky start. I'm prepared for a rocky start, but hoping and probably delusional the closer we get to kickoff. I mean, it is difficult to say how this team's going to respond with a near full, if not full Ibrox, because a lot of these players, well, obviously the new players coming in won't have experienced a European night with a crowd the size of Ibrox and as loud as Ibrox. So this is going to be they're either going to sink or swim in this situation, aren't they?
100%. And we need them all to swim because if this is the first game where everybody's going to sink, they're going to be in for a long season at Ibrox because this is only the first game where they're actually going to feel a bit of the noise. They're not going to know what it's like if we've lost like we did last season 6 in a row at Ibrox. They're not going to feel what the pressure's like until that point. I will say though, when we're talking about a competitive fixture and Rangers not having many, neither have Panathinaikos. Their season hasn't started yet either, so we've got that to go with. That they've only had pre-season games as well. So it's going to be a test of who's the more gel team, who's more cohesive at this point, because I think they've only got, I think, 3 sets of tickets. Something that's like G1, G2, and G3. They've not got many tickets for this game. So Rangers are going to be packed out in the stadium. So that's going to go for the players. They're going to feel it. I mean, as soon as you walk out that tunnel, you're just going to feel the noise of every one of the fans cheering you on to get you going. So we want them all to at least show their qualities. We just can't have any silly moments from the start, because how many times have we seen that where first couple of minutes we go a goal down, the crowd gets right on your back, then they start crumbling, and then we're chasing a game for 85 minutes. We cannot see that at all. And I don't think Russell Martin will stick from that. You've seen that when Finlay Curtis was doing his chat after the Bruges game, he said at halftime Russell Martin went through them. That was only a pre-season friendly, and he was going through the players. So if they're not performing in the first half of a European tie, I can imagine what that dressing room's going to be like at half-time. So it'll be interesting to see how they get through it. But I agree with Lewis. This is one of the most important games so far. They need to win this so that we can at least guarantee some sort of European football for next season.
Absolutely. And as Ross says, folks, get liking the pod and sharing it and subscribing. It is the boss's birthday and Lyndon's birthday, so give them a nice birthday on their Friday night and get the likes up for Martin and make him feel a bit better, because he's not been feeling great this week. He's been full of the cold, I believe. So let's get him feeling a little bit better about himself, and that'll cheer him up. This is an interesting one as well, Lewis. As CGM said, we are the seeded team in this draw. Not entirely sure what benefit we're getting with the home leg up first. I was totally surprised by that. I thought if you were a seeded team, you were the home tie second. So the seedings is almost a pointless exercise, isn't it?
I was quite surprised when that information first came out because, and prior entries into the Europa League for us in the past couple of years, we've tended to be the away side first because of how highly we are ranked in the UEFA club rankings at the minute. I think we're 28th or 29th in Europe right now. So there can't be many teams at that level that should be seeded higher than Rangers. And you're right, there's absolutely no advantage, absolutely zero. Panathinaikos definitely have the advantage in terms of that, which is what a part of what my point was earlier. It's even more pressure than it would have been beforehand because the crowd are going to be fully expecting us to put in a performance here so that we're in the best possible position going away to Greece the following Tuesday. So it's a bit pointless, to be honest. But what is the point in everything we've done for the past 5 or 6 years in Europe to end up in a position like this? It's baffling.
Yeah, very much so. And as George, just carrying on with the crowd theme, George is saying, if that Champions League doesn't get you going, the crowd will. I mean, just let alone the music, Alex, that music must send a shiver up a player's spine when he hears that music, because that's the music you want to play in throughout the season, isn't it?
If you're not hearing the Champions League music, then what is it you want to be hearing? I know Rangers love Europa League music. Seems to be our night listening to Europa League music, but you want the Champions League. You want that competition. See, for these players and to show that they've got something about them, we need to be playing Champions League because we get too much stick. Even though we've got the coefficient points up because of how far we get in Europa League, we get too much stick because we're in the B competition. Yet you look at half the teams that were in that competition last season, a lot of them are Champions League quality teams, and yet they're in Europa League. But for us to test ourselves and actually start closing the gap with the money that you get from being in this competition, I know that we've not got poor owners, but for the money you get just for being in the Champions League, it'd be good just to at least start seeing us in this competition and start throwing our weight about, because too often than not, we get embarrassed in the Champions League. But with this new format, I think we can actually thrive because we showed that it actually works to our advantage being in the Europa League.
Absolutely. And this is a big one as well, Lewis. The crowd's going to have to be extremely patient. Now, I think it's fair to say our support have been more than patient, to say the least. Is there much more patience in this support for much more, hard times ahead?
Brian, we've tried to be patient since 2012. Like it's running out like very, very quickly. No, do you know what? The comment is totally right. It's an absolutely correct statement, but the reality is no in connection to that. It's not going to be patience. Like 10 minutes in, God forbid if we go a goal down early first, it's going to be a tremendously difficult place for the guys to play, especially considering, you get 5 or 6 new signings announced in this squad, and at least half of them will probably have to start this football match. And if they have to play in that, they're going to have to show that they have the mettle to come through it. And you know what? They're going to have to do it at some point this season, because Rangers and Celtic are a very, very unique. That we are a unicorn football club because everything about us is best in class, world class, one of the best football teams on earth. But we don't have the finances or the squad power to compete at that level. But the expectation for the fan base is still there, and it's always going to be there. So it's a very difficult place to come here and play your football. You need to be so strong mentally as well as having the ability to match. And I hope it does end up that. I hope it's a nice, easy 2-0, 3-1, whatever, we're through. But if it isn't, then it'll be interesting to see how some of these new guys adapt to that situation, because like I said, it's not going to be the last time that they have to go through it.
No, certainly not. Alex, Panathinaikos aren't playing at their own stadium in the second leg, so that's got to be good news for us. I mean, we found that out playing at Hampden against Kiev, didn't we? We struggled at Kiev and we came a cropper there. So is there potential for Panathinaikos to come a cropper not being in their home stadium?
Only if they don't come away with something in the first leg. If they come away with anything in the first leg, they're going to have at least some sort of confidence going in that they can get something with us being away from home. The good news is that the fact you're saying they're not in their own stadium, but we have to, as Lewis says, we have to almost embarrass them in this first leg to take away any sort of home advantage that they're going to have playing in Greece. Hopefully we can do what they did to us in Hampden with Kiev and have a bit of a banana slip moment, but we definitely need to be walking away from this game with such an advantage that there's no way back for them, even if we do have a bit of a slip up over in Greece.
Yeah, I think this is a great point as well, Lewis. We've been patient for years. It's not fair to Russell Martin, but we haven't asked for the last 5 years either. That's just absolutely spot on, isn't it? We've been so patient. We haven't asked for the last 5 years. We've wanted better. We've all hoped for better. We just haven't got better. So it is. Russell Martin is in a difficult position because he's trying to turn a battleship around like a speedboat, and it's not going to work, is it?
No, it certainly isn't it. And if it is going to work, it's not going to work immediately. Philippe Clement was famous for saying he's not got a magic wand. Neither does Russell Martin. It's not going to change by the click of your fingers. Do you know what I mean? And it's really difficult to be a patient and fair Rangers fan because it has been, the best part of a decade and a half of turmoil and serious fallings of shortcomings of where Rangers should be. And I seen the comment there, just in terms of the European success that Rangers had, we have severely punched above expectations ever since coming back up to the top division. Like I said, we're 30th in the UEFA club rankings of every single football club in Europe. Celtic are 56th, and then everybody else in Scotland is almost not even in the top 200. So that just shows you the gap that there is between even Rangers and Celtic and then the rest of the SPL. So the expectations for us that we've become accustomed to the last 5 or 6 years are probably slightly unrealistic. But like I said, they're not going to go away. And a massive part of that is Ibrox Stadium. Like, I think we've only lost 3 or 4 times since coming back to Europe at Ibrox. So there's a reason the expectation is there, and you just need to hope that the famous atmosphere that we all know and love will come back and push the players through this tie at least, and then hopefully by whatever fixture comes after that we're more prepared in terms of our squad and our system.
Yes.
I will come back to that one though, Brian. Do you know when you're obviously talking, Lewis, about the fact that we've exceeded expectations in Europe, and obviously Ibrox has been a massive factor for that. But how much have we suffered in the league though? We put so much effort into Europe and try to get past really top teams and give all we've got. But then the league form, like we were beating Borussia Dortmund, then couldn't go beat St Mirren. Like, do you know what I mean? So it shows that we're one of the either right now. We're either doing amazing in the league or we're doing amazing in Europe. But we've not had a squad so far. Hopefully, with Russell Martin, this is a squad that's going to show we can do both, because the fans are obviously wanting as much trophies as we can get, but if we're going to put all our eggs in the Champions League, fair enough. But then we can't not put ourselves in a position where we're not even in a position to qualify next season. So we need to have a bit of a caveat that if we're going to push for Europe, we can't let this domestic campaign fall away either.
Mate, it's so difficult. Sorry, Brian. It's so difficult for Rangers and Celtic to have a season where they are actively competing in Europe and succeeding domestically as well. I mean, Celtic have just had their first season where they've done both in almost 2 decades. When's the last time that Celtic have been successful in Europe as well as being the dominant team in the league? It's not an easy thing to do. So, it's not going to come easily. It needs to be domestic football, though. Once this fixture is passed and we've gave it our best effort to get into whatever competition we're going to get into, the focus needs to be fully domestic. That's where we need to get back to. The European football's not the worry. That's not the worry. Like I said, it doesn't actually really matter how good a Rangers or Celtic squad is, because they've got 2 of the best atmospheres in Europe. It's always going to carry you further than you're ever really going to go with the squad of players we're able to financially bring in. But this season needs to be domestic football. Russell Martin needs to prove that we're able to become top dogs in Scotland, and then we can worry about external issues after that.
Europe just has to be a bonus at this point, doesn't it? We have to just treat it as a bonus. We can't be treating that as the number one priority. We can't be treating it as a priority and then watching the other team go and get trebles season after season, and we're going, well, we got to the last 8 of Europe, we got to the last 16, there's our achievement, but getting no silverware and going, well, we at least got that, because then all we're doing is strengthening their position in Europe. They're not having to play as many qualifying games, and we still are. Like, we're jumping in here at the second round, yet we were in the last 8 of the Europa League, last 4, and yet we're saying, right, let's go into the second round of qualifying for the Champions League. It makes absolutely no sense, but that's because we're performing so poor in our own league. Like, for a lot of last season, we're challenging for third and second. Never mind first. We couldn't even get near first. We're going, right, let's make sure we can get second, and that'll do us, and we'll be happy with that. That can't continue on, and I completely agree with yourself, Lewis, that if we're not challenging for the league, then what are we doing? What is Rangers Football Club are we doing if we're not challenging for that league and making that the number one priority going forward?
Totally agree. And Rangers on tour. Do you think there's a Panathinaikos Rabble right now talking about the game on Tuesday? Well, you never know. There might be one. Out there. They were certainly in the chat the week before when the draw was made, when me and Martin did the watch along for the draw. So, they were in our chat that night. So you never know. And Charles is asking Alex, is there a watch along tomorrow?
What's happening tomorrow?
I don't know. That's why I was trying to work out.
I did see the comment, and I literally looked and I'm going, I have no clue what game's on tomorrow that I'm going to watch along for. Like, what game is even on? Charles, you'll need to tell me what game's happening tomorrow.
I mean, that's why I'm asking, because I thought, well, we better clarify just in case we've missed something, but I don't see anything.
Unless Charles put that comment in from the future, because our next game's not till Tuesday, so I don't know what game's happening tomorrow.
Well, I just thought I'd ask. I'll throw it both to you. Dado Perzo's blue boots. Pierce Charles on his way to Ibrox, allegedly. Now, this came up earlier, today, that Sheffield Wednesday goalkeeper, 19-year-old, is possibly on his way to Ibrox. We're raiding Sheffield Wednesday again. Alex, have you seen or heard much of this goalkeeper?
I've actually heard nothing of this goalkeeper, to be fair. Pierce Charles, never heard nothing about him, but it seems to be right now that we're taking advantage of Sheffield Wednesday's downfall and just going, right, we'll take this player, because we're being linked with every one of their players, but at an absolute cutthroat price. I mean, it was only at the start of the season or midway through that they wanted 10 million for Gassama. We got it for 2.1, so we're absolutely taking their downfall, but obviously they're not obviously doing the best, not paid any of their players, and they've had another 2 today. One of our own, Josh Windass, cancel his contract by mutual consent because they've not paid the contract. So there's a lot of players in that club that are going to be leaving, and it's going to put Sheffield Wednesday in an even worse position, because I think they've only got 14 players now, to even 13 players. So they're going to really struggle next season to even stay in the Championship.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Lewis, is this a guy that you've came across or heard about much, this Pierce Charles?
No, before the links, to be honest, mate, I've not really ever aware of him. Obviously done a wee bit of research. I think he only played like 8 games last season in the Championship. I don't think he'd be somebody that we'd be bringing in to be thought of as an immediate replacement to the first choice option. And we've got a guy that's younger than him and represents the same nation. It's a bit of a strange one. I've questioned quite a lot of the business that we've done, to be honest. So who are any of us to say who's going to work and who is going to work, because we won't know until they're on the pitch. It just, the only thing I would say, I'm more getting really worried now. Like, it is starting to become alarming how narrow our search for players is under Russell Martin. Like, it is solely only English players or English league players. Like, that's unacceptable. That just shows a total lack of any real top level scouting department, because it's such a financially bloated market. It's just, it does worry me that every single player we brought in, every single player, bar the Israeli boy, has been from England. I really do think we need to start broadening our horizons. I mean, who was our most exciting player last year? Hamza Agaman. Where did he come from? He came from the Moroccan league, for God's sake.
Yes.
And we're looking to, times our purchase for him by 10. If he stays this year and has another good year, we could sell that boy for 20 million and we picked him up for 2. You're not going to get that in England. It's very, very difficult to find bargains like that down south. So that would be the only point I would be making. I would like to see us starting to be linked with guys that don't ply their trade in England.
I mean, you'll like this, Lewis. Watching Pierce Charles is like someone has stuck Pirlo in goals. The lad can ping a pass.
Well, if he's like Pirlo, he shouldn't be in goals. He should be playing in the middle of the park.
Where was this one? Oh, did anyone watch the Panathinaikos friendly that they played that the last played 2-1 defeat to Braga? I know you can't go off pre-season friendlies, but they look average. Braga didn't have to do much to score. So again, as Ian's saying there, Alex, you can't take too much into pre-seasons, but a team can only, it depends where they are. Is that their first game? It all depends on where they are in their pre-season. So it's nice. It's nice to see they're struggling a little bit. So it gives us a little bit of hope because we've beaten Braga in the past. So, but again, as Ian's saying there, you don't take too much into pre-season friendlies, do you?
I mean, we drew 1 each with Barnsley, so what's that say about our pre-season? Do you know what I mean? Like, if we're going off that pre-season, then get beat 2-1 off Braga, who are a quality opposition, and we're drawing 1 each to Barnsley, then I think we're going to be the team that's struggling if that's anything to go by. So for me, you can't look too much into pre-season. Look at our first half and second half against Bruges. They were night and day performances. The way that you've got the completely different teams that we looked in those 2 halves of football, I think that if we're going anything by pre-season, it's the fact that we've got to see some new faces. I'm not looking at the result, because if we're looking at results, we're going into this saying, well, actually, we drew against a championship side in Barnsley, so I'm not looking too much into it at all. They didn't look the greatest, but look at our first half. We looked absolutely done. Like, we couldn't even string a pass together. We were getting ripped apart. Conceded 2 goals in 12 minutes to Bruges, who did look a quality opposition, same as probably Braga did. So, for me, I'm not looking into that game at all. The only game I'm going to look into is when we play them on Tuesday night.
Absolutely. And a few more comments just to get through. These players will have to prove to us that they will perform. Yes, be patient, but if the old players falter, the fans will be ruthless. Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. You can't argue with any of that. Lewis, do you think the Americans are going to give up millions in Europe for a league win? They will want everything. Now, this is going to be the interesting thing this season, isn't it? Are they going to throw all their eggs in one basket, as in, going for the league, or are they going to try and spread things out and go for everything? Do you think they're going to go for everything?
I think that's a prerequisite when you come to Rangers. Like I said, it's just such a unique place to come play football, because the expectations are the same as they are at Real Madrid, as they are at Man United, as they are at Bayern Munich, except we're operating at 1,000% less in finances to clubs like this. So it's just the way it is when you come to Glasgow. Whatever side of the city it is, that's how it works. You need to fight for absolutely everything. And I think that the fact that we have these specific owners, Europe now becomes slightly more important than it would have been under the previous regime, because this new board have come in with the expectation that Rangers are a minimum Europa League quarter-final standard team.
Mm-hmm.
That is the level that we should be operating at every single season as an absolute minimum. If we fall below that, God forbid, if we end up in the Conference League, it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I'm saying that domestic football needs to be the priority, and it does need to be the priority, and listen, when the new board come in, I think from what they've said, you can understand that they know what is expected to get Rangers back on track domestically, but they will also want Europe to continue, or in a perfect world to improve and Rangers become a Champions League standard club. That's the aim.
Yeah, absolutely, it's the aim. And the other side of the coin, Alex, if the Euros demand success and he gets off to a howler, what's going to happen? I think that's going to be the crucial thing, isn't it? Yeah, will the owners panic, or will they stay steadfast with Russell Martin? I think that's going to be the first sign of a crack in the sort of the chink in the armor you could put. Are the new owners going to stand steadfast and hold firm?
I think the whole firm for a good while. The issue is going to be that if the results don't go away for a week, all the fans are going to lose their mind, because they're going to say, well, we didn't want Russell Martin in the first place, and we didn't want to be in this position. Why have we got Russell Martin? And it's going to be the exact same we've had with every other manager. See if the results start going away and then we have a stumble. We need to take it as a stumble and say, right, well, he needs to improve and we'll go forward. But see this jumping on him straight away and going, right, that's it, get him out, we can't have him. That's where we're suffering, because we didn't do this with Steven Gerrard. We didn't do it with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. We did it with Beale. We did it with Clement. We did it with Barry. We're now on to 5-6 managers that we're just getting rid of, that are showing qualities but are not getting an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that Beale and Clement didn't get an opportunity, because they very much did, and they couldn't show anything from it. But I think these managers they've done a vigorous search. There was loads of managers that looked at, but Russell Martin was the one that stood out to them over a number of interviews, time and time again. So I think they're gonna stick with Russell Martin. I think they'll show that they've got a bit of backing from him. They've put money in. They obviously believe in him. They wouldn't have put this amount of money into players if they didn't believe in him. I think that the biggest thing is, when you're talking about, Lewis, that we're trying to compete in Europe, we spent £3.5 million on a centre back to try and come in and show what we can do, whereas Liverpool spent 120 million on a cam. It's like, how are we competing against that? So we need to bring in players that are going to be quality and get us going. People might say that the players we're bringing in are average. They're not good enough. They're not going to do anything. We've not even seen them kick a ball in a competitive game of football for the club, and we're already saying they're not good enough. So I think when you're talking about Russell Martin getting off the howler, we need to let this team embed. See, if we draw against Motherwell, we draw the first leg against Panathinaikos, let it happen. We need to get behind them and show our support for the second leg, for the next game in the league, because we're here for the whole season, whether we like it or not, with these players. We can't go, right, you're a howler. I know we spent $3.5 million on you, but right, see you later on. They're here for the season. It doesn't matter if we don't like them or not. They're going to have to be here. So we need to get behind them and show that we actually want them to be here, and show that we actually want them to get behind them as a team and go forward and win trophies, and say, this is why we brought you in, rather than saying, right, out the door you go.
It's Alex. That is a great way to finish off the pod. And I'll just go through a couple more. Super chat from Kevin Wilson. Much appreciated, Kevin. £10 super chat. Excellent stuff. Much appreciated. His team for Tuesday, Lewis, is Butland, Tav, Suter, King, Jefti, Raskin, Diomande, Berami, Curtis, Dessers, and Igaman. That's a bold team, isn't it?
It's a very, very, very bold team. I don't think I agree with a lot of it, but hey, none of us are the manager, so if that ends up the team, I'll definitely eat my words. But I do also at the same time hope that isn't the team.
I think, Alex, you're secretly hoping it is the team, but at the same time not expecting it, aren't you?
There's a few players in there I'm going, I don't even want them on the bench, never mind in the team. So, but as you said, Lewis, you need to hope the manager picks the right team, and he needs to get it right, because we can't be panicking halfway through the game going, right, how can we fix this, and try to chase a game. So he needs to get it right from the first whistle.
Absolutely. And welcome along to Andrew Duncan, who's joined as a YouTube member. Much appreciated, Andrew, and I hope you enjoy all the members' goodies that come with extras, being a member. So thank you very much. And that is us, folks. That is us. We'll call it a day, because obviously Martin likes the time to be not quite the hour, so we'll stick to that. But obviously we'll be back tomorrow morning with the Random Rabble. So they'll be speaking anything and everything but Rangers for the first good while of the pod, and then they'll maybe speak about Rangers at the end. So that'll be available to members tomorrow at 11 a.m. But my thanks to Alex and Lewis. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Much appreciated, guys. And everybody in the comments, much appreciated. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Thanks for joining us, and we'll speak soon.